Mr. Mong joining us today. His highlight of his career that he shared is that he's had so many during his career. Wildlife capture and handling is a big one, and he's been fortunate enough to have had the opportunity to capture many Wyoming species, including pronghorn, bighorn sheep, elk, mule deer, moose, black-footed ferrets, and wolves here in Wyoming. And it's even had a trip over to Africa, it looks like, where you got a hold of some dik-dik antelopes. So we look forward to hearing from you today, Tony. If you have any needs or need to share a screen, let me know, and we're ready to rock.
All right, great. How's everybody doing tonight? I hope the weather's as good where you're at as it is at my house. I wish I was outside, but super happy to be here to talk to you. And I don't know if you can see behind me, I kind of stuck myself outside regardless. So I try to do that quite a bit. I am a wildlife biologist for Wyoming Game and Fish. So that means I'm focused on, got a bunch of people joining here. I hate for people to miss things, but I work for the state agency, and what that means is that we are we get the privilege of managing the wildlife of Wyoming for all the public. Wildlife is actually the property not of the state, but of the people of Wyoming, and part of my job is actually to go out and make sure that those wildlife are going to persist into the future, so that you can go out and you can see them, you can enjoy them, you can hunt them, whatever you like. And so that's really part of my job. My career started at school, and we'll talk about kind of what it takes to be a biologist kind of at the end here. But I've worked in a lot of different areas with a lot of different animals. I've been in Wyoming now for about 12 years. Before that, I worked in Montana, I've worked in Kansas, and I worked in Missouri as well. And that's where I grew up, was in southern Missouri in the Ozark Mountains of Missouri. And how I got to Cody is a long story that, maybe if you're interested, you can email me about, and I'll email you my life history if you like. But one of the great things that I love about this is that when I was a kid, I loved being outside. I loved being in the woods. I had a little beagle hunting dog. I chased that thing around everywhere, and just really enjoyed being outdoors. And I didn't realize that there was an opportunity to actually make this a career until I got to college. And it was literally looking through the college book at different majors, and I came across this thing called Fisheries and Wildlife Science, and I was like, people get paid to do this? And I was blown away, and so that's kind of what set me on my path and what brought me here. And today I'd say, I hate to be biased, but I have one of the greatest jobs there are in this country. I get to work in one of the greatest places, the Yellowstone ecosystem, and I get to work with just about every cool animal you can think of in Wyoming. So I'm going to share my screen. I got a few things just to share with you as we kind of walk through this. So I hope you can hang in. And again, I'm focusing on kind of wildlife biology and wildlife management as a state biologist managing state resources, but there's all kinds of different career paths you could take as a wildlife biologist. You could be a full-time researcher. You could be a habitat biologist. You could even look into diseases and different things like that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go with wildlife biology, and mine is just one slant on that. And as Mrs. Lynch noted, her husband is a game warden. Game wardens are part of the wildlife management toolbox, and they enforce laws, but they also are involved with the management of wildlife here in Wyoming. You can see a few pictures here on the screen. And so what it really means to be a biologist or even a warden here in Wyoming is that wildlife management is really the wise use and manipulation of renewable resources, and that's really important. We want to be able to use these resources, whether it's hunting, through taking pictures, whatever the case may be, however you want to enjoy the outdoors. Our job is to use that in a wise way. And so when we talk about wildlife management, or when I specifically talk about it, I'm really talking about harvest and how many animals we harvest and how many animals are on the landscape, making sure that those numbers are at a level that allows us to really enjoy them. So what do I do? You can sum it up with a bunch of different pictures. And so the one on the top left there for you, maybe that computer, that's exactly what it's like in my office sometimes. The computer is not my friend. He's yelling at me or doing things. So you can, with my job, I work with computers quite a bit. You can see there, I do quite a bit of email because I'm working with other agencies. I'm working with other groups, trying to coordinate the best management decisions and best management that we can do for these wildlife species. You can see in the top middle there, that's kind of hopefully not what you're doing yet, but I do a lot of public speaking, whether it's in public meetings where I'm talking about wildlife management or I'm presenting hunting seasons to people, or just giving presentations like this and talking about something that I love. You can see there in the middle, the warden kind of side of things where we're making sure that people are following the laws. And that's a big piece of wildlife management is having folks that are going out, making sure that people are doing what they're supposed to. The bottom center is where I started and why I got into this, because I love being outside. And so between that and the bottom right there and the top right, those are things that I really wanted to do. I wanted to handle wildlife. I wanted to be close with them. And that's really what got me started in it. And that is a piece of it, but it's not always as big a piece as we like. Now, one of the things that we talk about wildlife management is being able to go out and actually physically count animals. And we do that a lot through helicopters. So a helicopter is a pretty big tool of a wildlife manager, especially here in this big area that we live here in Wyoming. Now, just a few things, just kind of run you through the year. What's a year look like for a wildlife biologist here in Wyoming? And in the winter, we're kind of checking animals. How's their condition doing? What's winter looking like? Where are they at? What areas might be important to wildlife in the winter? And we need to document that so we can protect those areas. We can understand better what's going on in those areas. We look for animals that may have died. We try to survey and we say, okay, why did this animal die? Is it not getting enough food? Is it a disease issue? Those types of things. And then this is when we do most of our counts, kind of in this late winter, springtime. We count our elk, we count moose, and then now is also when we start counting sage grouse. I don't know if you know much about sage grouse, but all the sage grouse get together on a lek and all the males try to outcompete and dance to impress the girl grouse, and that's where they meet, is on those leks, and that allows us to go out, and we actually go out and count these guys. So if you like to count, you can be a wildlife biologist. How many of you can count? Raise a hands. Look at all of you. You guys would be great wildlife biologists. All right, and then now is also when we do our public open houses or season setting process, where we put together our ideas and what we think would be good for the next hunting season. We bring that to the public and we say, okay, what do you think? And we get your feedback and we wrap that in, and then we set the hunting seasons for this upcoming year. Now, if you move into summer, this gets to be more of a fun time. It's actually time when we can be outside and not be too cold. We go out, we kind of document where these animals are having their babies. We start our classifications, which means we count again. All of you can count. Man, you'd be great biologists. We count the number of bucks, the number of does, the number of baby antelope, the number of fawns there. And then we start into our hunting seasons. Archery season starts in September, and that's a big time for us. We're going out, we're collecting information from hunters, whether we're taking samples from animals. That all starts in kind of the summertime. And here in Wyoming and in my district, what I do a lot in the summer is go out and what we call resource reconnaissance. That means we got to go out and check to make sure that there's food for the wildlife, that wildlife are doing okay on their summer range. And so we jump on our horses and we get into the backcountry and we really look at that. So moving into the fall, this is a big time for game and fish, as you can imagine. Maybe you've seen us out checking hunters, that sort of thing. We set up check stations. We're talking with hunters. We're continually just trying to understand what's going on in the landscape with hunting. And then also in this time period, we do start some of our winter classifications. We do deer classifications where, again, you all are great biologists already. You know how to count animals. We look in all the animals that are being harvested. We take measurements of antlers. Sometimes we're taking teeth so that we can send them into a lab to see exactly how old they are. And again, a big thing of what we do now is disease sampling, seeing if animals have that chronic wasting disease that we're concerned about. We're also documenting kind of migration routes and where animals are moving to and from, what areas are important for wildlife. And so that happens in the fall as well. And then my favorite thing to do is capture animals, get my hands on them, really understand how they're doing, and really kind of get a connection with those animals. Some of the tools we use in that, again, are a helicopter. This is one of the smaller ones that we use, but I get to go out and document the number of animals by flying in a helicopter. Here are just a few pictures. Some of these are from around the Cody area, but also down in the south central part of the area around Bags. That's where I started my career here. And so just a great time is in the winter when we get to actually see these animals. Here in Cody, we get a lot of bighorn sheep right down on the road, so they're easy to count. I take my 9-year-old out and he counts them for me. So if you can count, be a biologist. Let's remember that. Another great thing we get to do is captures. You can see here some of the animals that I've been able to capture and put collars on. That gives us information on where they're going and where they're living in the summer, where they're living in the winter, where they having their babies. All these areas are super important for us to understand where they're happening so that we can understand how things are out on the landscape for these animals. A couple ways we capture those. You can see right there on the bottom right there, there's a drop net. I used to do a lot of that in bags. We'd get them underneath the net using apple pulp, and then we drop the net on their backs, and then we had to go actually kind of subdue them, hold them down like you see there with that game and fish guy there, Martin. And then we'd be able to ear tag them. We put collars on them, that kind of thing. Another capture method that we use is from a helicopter. Oh, 1 minute left. Geez, we may not have time for questions. Sorry. But real quick, this is what kind of a helicopter looks like. Oh, it's not going to let me do it. You kind of get these helicopters doing the captures for us. I don't get to do that because it's too dangerous. Game and Fish won't let me, so we hire folks to do it. So what's it take to be a biologist? What you need is a bunch of schooling to start with, but then a bunch of experience. These are just some of the things that I think are really important to get into my field. If you go to my profile that they put on the website there, you'll be able to see some resources there where you can go check out the different things. So I see there's a question, and
yep.
Like I tend to do, I talk too much.
That's okay, Mr. Mong. We appreciate it. We are probably going to get bumped back into the other room, but again, on the website for the virtual career fair, Mr. Mong's contact information is there, and I would encourage you all to just send him a question. Thanks so much, Tony. We appreciate you. Bye-bye.